I thought the worst part was being abandoned at the airport. I was wrong. The worst part was realizing it wasn't an accident. Hi, my name is Evelyn Harper, and I'm 68 years old. I've lived a quiet life, a careful one. I raised my children to be polite, independent, and, if I'm honest, ambitious. I believed that if you gave enough love, enough support, enough forgiveness, it would come back to you when you needed it most. This story is me admitting how wrong I was and how I finally stopped paying the price for it. I had just landed after visiting my oldest friend, Carol. We'd been friends since college, the kind of friendship that survives marriages, divorces, funerals, and time zones. The trip had been good for me. Restful. I felt lighter when the plane touched down, already picturing my daughter's car pulling up to the curb, her waving through the windshield like she always used to. I turned my phone back on as I walked through the terminal. No missed calls, no texts. That was unusual. I grabbed my suitcase and stood near baggage claim, scanning faces. Families reunited in little explosions of joy, couples hugging, someone crying into a shoulder. Time passed and the crowd thinned. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, harsh and unflattering. My feet began to ache. I checked my phone again. Still nothing. I called my daughter Melissa, straight to voicemail. I tried my son, Andrew. Ringing, voicemail. A small knot formed in my stomach, not panic yet, just that familiar, unpleasant feeling of being an afterthought. I sent a text. I've landed. Where should I meet you? No reply. I waited. 30 minutes turned into an hour. The airport staff started giving me that look, polite, concerned, slightly impatient. I moved to a bench near the exit, my suitcase upright beside me like a loyal dog. The automatic doors slid open and shut, letting in bursts of cold night air and the smell of exhaust. I told myself there was traffic, a misunderstanding, a dead phone. Then Melissa finally texted. "Oh shoot, I thought Andrew was getting you." My chest tightened. I typed back slowly. "I just spoke to Andrew yesterday. He said you were." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. We must have mixed it up. I can't come now. I've had a glass of wine. I stared at the screen. That was it. No apology. No concern. Just an explanation that absolved her. I called Andrew again. This time he answered, his voice distracted, muffled like he had me on speaker. "Hey, Mom." "I'm at the airport," I said. "I've been here over an hour." Pause. "Oh," he said. "I thought Melissa had you." "I thought you did." He sighed, actually sighed. "Mom, I'm already home. That's a long drive." Something sharp twisted inside me. So, what do I do? Another pause. Then, "Can you take a cab?" I looked around at the dark parking lot, at my hands, suddenly aware of how tired they looked. "It's almost midnight." "Yeah, but Uber's a thing," he said lightly. "Just expense it." Expense it. Like I was submitting a work receipt. "I don't have Uber," I said. "You know that." "Well," he replied, impatience creeping in, "I don't know what you want me to do." The words hung there. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. Instead, I said quietly, "Okay." We hung up. I sat there for a long moment, my ears ringing. People passed me with rolling suitcases and purpose. No one noticed the older woman sitting alone, shoulders drawn in, blinking too fast. I did what I had to do. I found a taxi. It cost more than it should have, and the driver talked nonstop about gas prices while I stared out the window, watching my city slide past like a place I no longer belonged to. When I got home, the house was dark and cold. I didn't turn on all the lights. I just stood in the entryway with my suitcase and felt something inside me settle into place. Not sadness. Not yet. Recognition. I went to bed without unpacking. The next morning, my phone rang while I was making coffee. Unknown number. "This is Denise from First Harbor Bank," the woman said cheerfully. "Mrs. Harper, we just wanted to verify a request made on your account late last night." My hand tightened around the mug. "What kind of request?" "A transfer inquiry," she said, "a rather large one." My heart began to pound. I didn't make any transfer. There was a pause on her end now. "That's why we're calling." The kitchen suddenly felt too quiet, too still. "Who made the request?" I asked. She hesitated. "It was initiated online, from a device associated with your son, Andrew." I sank into the chair. In that moment, the airport didn't feel like an accident anymore. It felt like a test. And they thought I wasn't paying attention. I thanked the banker, ended the call, and sat there staring at the wall as my coffee went cold. 68 years of being dependable, of being generous, of being understanding. And this is how it was repaid. That was the moment I stopped waiting to be picked up. Because while they were deciding who was supposed to come get me, they were also deciding how much of me they could take. And they had no idea what I was about to do next. After I hung up with the banker, I didn't cry. That surprised me. I just sat there at the kitchen table, both hands wrapped around a mug I wasn't drinking from, staring at the faint crack in the wall near the pantry door. I'd been meaning to fix that crack for years. Funny how you notice small things when something big finally breaks. I called Denise back 10 minutes later. "I need to know exactly what was attempted," I said. Her tone shifted immediately. Professional, careful. "The login credentials matched your son's device, Mrs. Harper. He attempted to initiate a transfer from your primary savings into an external account. It was flagged because the amount exceeded your usual activity." "How much?" I asked. There was a brief pause. $200,000. The room tilted, not dramatically, no fainting spell, no gasp, but enough that I had to put one hand flat on the table to steady myself. "That money," I said slowly, "is earmarked." "Yes," Denise replied. "We saw notes regarding that. That's why the transfer was frozen pending verbal confirmation." Notes. I almost laughed. That account was the one my late husband and I had set aside for long-term care, for when, not if, life became more difficult. It was never meant to be touched casually, and Andrew knew that. I thanked her again, my voice calm enough that even I didn't recognize it. When I hung up, the quiet returned, but it felt different now. Charged, like the air before a storm. I checked my phone. A missed call from Andrew, 2 from Melissa, no voicemails. Interesting. I didn't call back right away. Instead, I walked through my house slowly, noticing things I'd taken for granted. The bookshelf Andrew helped assemble when he was 22. The armchair Melissa used to curl up in when she was sick as a teenager. These weren't just memories anymore. They were leverage they thought they owned. By noon, I had 3 new messages. Andrew, "Hey Mom, bank called me about some issue. Everything okay?" Melissa, "Are you home? Andrew says there's some confusion with your accounts." Andrew again, "Call me when you get this." Confusion. I sat down and typed one sentence. "I know about the transfer." The response was immediate. Andrew called. "Mom," he said too quickly, "this is all a misunderstanding." "Is it?" I asked. Yes, I was just trying to move $200,000 out of my account. I finished. Silence, the kind that tells you the truth faster than words ever could. "I was going to tell you," he finally said. "When?" I asked. "Well," he hedged, "after I made sure it went through." My hand trembled slightly, but my voice didn't. "You left me at the airport last night. That has nothing to do with this," he snapped. "It had everything to do with this." "You knew I'd be exhausted," I said. "You knew I wouldn't check my accounts. You knew I'd get home late." He didn't deny it. Instead, he sighed, the same sigh he'd given me at the airport call. Annoyed, put upon. "Mom," he said, dropping the pretense, "that money was just sitting there." I closed my eyes. "That money," I replied, "was not yours. I'm your son," he shot back. "Eventually it will be." Eventually. There it was, the word that explained everything. "You didn't even come get me," I said quietly. Melissa joined the call without warning. "Okay, let's all calm down," she said, already choosing sides with her tone. "Andrew was just trying to help manage things. You know you're not great with online banking." I laughed then, a short, humorless sound. So the plan was to take care of me by taking from me? "No one took anything," Andrew said defensively. "The bank stopped it." "Because they thought it was fraud," I said. "Because it was." That word changed everything. Melissa inhaled sharply. "Mom, don't say that." "Why?" I asked. "Because it sounds ugly? Because it makes you uncomfortable?" Andrew's voice hardened. "You're overreacting." "No," I said. "I underreacted for years." The call ended badly. Voices raised. Accusations thrown. They accused me of mistrust, of paranoia, of being dramatic. Not once did either of them apologize for leaving me alone at the airport. Not once did they ask if I was okay. Afterward, I sat there in the silence, my heart racing, my hands cold. But beneath the shock and anger was something unexpected, relief. Because now I knew. That afternoon, I made another appointment with my lawyer. And this time, I brought a list. Because Chapter 2 wasn't about being abandoned at an airport. It was about realizing that while I was waiting for a ride home, they were already planning my exit. My lawyer's office smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and old paper. I remember noticing how solid the chair felt beneath me, how steady the desk was, like the room itself was designed to keep people grounded while their lives were being rearranged. I needed that steadiness. I didn't sugarcoat anything. I told her about the airport, the transfer attempt, the phone call where my son talked about my money like it was already his. I told her how my daughter had slid into the conversation, not to defend me, but to manage me. She listened without interrupting, just nodding slowly, her pen moving in short, precise strokes. "When was the last time you updated your estate plan?" she asked. 8 years ago, I said. "After my husband died." She looked up then. "A lot can change in 8 years." "Yes," I said quietly. "It has. We spent hours going through everything. Accounts I'd forgotten about. Beneficiaries I'd named automatically, without thinking too hard, because that's what mothers do. We talked about safeguards, about permissions, about what it actually means to protect yourself when the threat isn't a stranger, but family. By the time I left, my hands were sore from signing documents. I felt strangely calm. That calm didn't last. Word traveled fast, faster than I expected. Within days, relatives I hadn't heard from in years started calling. Old friends suddenly wanted coffee. People asked questions that sounded casual but weren't. "So, are you really cutting the kids off? I heard there was some confusion with your finances. You know they mean well, right?" Everyone meant well. That was the problem. Andrew showed up unannounced again, this time with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He stood in my doorway like he belonged there by default. "I just want to clear the air," he said. I didn't step aside, then talk. He shifted, uncomfortable. "You didn't have to involve lawyers." "I didn't have to involve banks either," I replied. He winced. "You're making this bigger than it is." "No," I said. "I'm seeing it for exactly what it is." He tried a different tactic then. His voice softened. "You know I worry about you being alone." I gestured around the house. I was alone at the airport, too. His eyes flickered away. "I could have come," he muttered. "I just didn't think." "That's the point," I said. "You didn't think." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Mom, eventually this stuff becomes our responsibility anyway." Our. Not mine. Not my life. Not my choices. "You don't get to rush my ending because you're impatient for the middle," I said. He looked stunned, then angry. "You're punishing us," he snapped. "I'm protecting myself," I replied. "There's a difference." He left without saying goodbye. That night, Melissa sent me a long text, paragraphs of it, therapy language, soft blame wrapped in concern. She said Andrew had been stressed, that money caused tension, that families shared resources, that I shouldn't let one bad night destroy relationships. One bad night. I typed back slowly, "You left me too." She didn't reply. That's when I did something I'd never done before. I stopped reaching out. No check-in calls, no invitations, no apologies to smooth things over. I let the silence sit where my effort used to be. And you know what filled that silence? Peace. I slept better. I took longer walks. I noticed how tense I'd been for years without realizing it, always waiting for the next request, the next emergency, the next quiet expectation. I wasn't anxious anymore. I was alert. Then the letter arrived. Certified mail. Andrew's name in the return address. Inside was a formal request. Polite. Legal. He was seeking clarification regarding my capacity and recent financial decisions. He wanted documentation, assessments, oversight. He was testing how far he could push. I didn't cry when I read it. I didn't panic. I laughed. Because Chapter 3 wasn't where I broke. It was where I realized they were afraid. Afraid of losing access. Afraid of losing control. Afraid that the woman they left at an airport had finally found her footing. I folded the letter neatly, placed it in a folder marked evidence, and made one more call to my lawyer. Because Chapter 4 wasn't going to be quiet, and it definitely wasn't going to end the way they expected. Anger burns hot and fast. What I felt now was colder, clearer, the kind of calm that only comes after you've stopped hoping people will suddenly become who you needed them to be. I met my lawyer the morning after Andrew's letter arrived. I brought the folder, the airport receipt, the bank report, call logs, screenshots, everything neatly organized, because somewhere along the way I realized this wasn't just emotional anymore. It was procedural. She read the letter carefully, then looked up at me. "He's trying to establish doubt," she said, "about your competence." I nodded, because doubt opens doors. "Yes," she said, "but only if it's unanswered." So we answered it. We answered it thoroughly. That same week, I completed a full medical and cognitive evaluation. Voluntary, comprehensive. The doctor was kind, almost apologetic, as he explained each step. When the results came back, they were exactly what I already knew. Sound mind, full capacity, no impairment. My lawyer sent the documentation directly to Andrew's attorney, along with a formal notice. Any further attempts to access my finances, question my competence, or interfere with my assets would be treated as harassment and met with legal action. I didn't send a personal message. I didn't need to. The phone calls stopped immediately. Melissa tried once, just once. She left a voicemail saying she missed me and hoped we could move past all this. No apology, no accountability. Just a soft reset request, like nothing irreversible had happened. I didn't call back, because some things don't get reset, they get remembered. Weeks passed, then months. Life grew quieter, but not smaller. I changed my routines, took myself to lunch, made friends at a local community art class I'd always been too busy to attend because someone might need me. I started sleeping with the windows open, letting the night air in, realizing how long I'd lived braced for interruption. The house felt different too, like it belonged to me again, not to some future version of my children's plans. Then, one afternoon, my banker called again. This time there was no tension in her voice. "I just wanted to let you know," she said, "we've added additional protections to your accounts as requested. No one but you can initiate transfers now. Ever." I thanked her and hung up, smiling to myself. It felt like locking the final door. The last time I saw Andrew was purely accidental. The grocery store, produce aisle. He looked thinner, older. He hesitated when he saw me, like he wasn't sure which version of me he was allowed to approach. "Mom," he said cautiously. "Andrew," I replied, polite, neutral. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say more, maybe an apology, maybe a justification. I didn't wait to find out. I picked up my basket and walked away. That was the moment I knew it was over, not because I'd won, not because he'd lost, but because his presence no longer had power over my nervous system. That night, I sat on my porch with a blanket and a cup of tea. The sky was deep blue, the kind that makes you feel both small and perfectly placed. I thought about the airport bench, about my suitcase at my feet, about how invisible I'd felt. They left me there because they thought I'd always find my own way home. They just didn't expect me to take everything with me. I wasn't left behind. I was left alone long enough to see the truth. And once you see it, you don't beg for rides anymore. You drive yourself forward.